Newly revealed documents looking at an Alabama narcotics investigation squad has unveiled a more than a decade-long organized string of purposeful plantings of drugs and guns on innocent black men since the mid-1990s. So these came from the Alabama Justice Project. They reveal that a Dothan Police Department's internal affairs investigation was covered up by the district attorney. And it shows that a group of up to a dozen police officers on a specialized narcotics team were found to have planted drugs and weapons on young black men for years. Now, they were supervised by, at the time, by Lieutenant Steve Parrish, who's the current Dothan police chief, and Sergeant Andy Hughes, the current assistant director of Homeland Security for the state of Alabama.
Okay,
now,
I read the whole report.
Yes.
This started back in 1996, and it has led to the false imprisonment of... This is so depressing.
Amazing.
Thousands of young black men who did not do it. They planted the evidence. You know who turned them in? And God bless their hearts. Other police officers.
Yeah.
In fact, in the beginning, we know their race because it's in the report. Other white police officers in Alabama said, "What are they doing? This is outrageous." And they go to their superior officers and they say they're planting evidence on these kids, and they're throwing them in jail. And the superior officers go, "Yeah, that's right. What's your problem?"
What name so?
Right? So the prosecutor in the case, the commanding officers, etc. And then what happens after the giant cover-up? All the guys who did wrong get promoted.
You know, they're in incredible positions of power right now.
This is now an internal affairs investigation. You know, one of the interesting questions that I asked Quentin Tarantino earlier, but and he didn't really answer it. But I think it's worth discussing. Is like, for years and years, you know, in every movie from the 1950s on, the Rat Squad, the internal affairs cops, those are the bad cops, right? In they're always the villains. They're always not to be trusted. Sipowicz and Bobby and or whoever he was with, and John Kelly or Bobby Simone, like they were always like, "Oh, the internal affairs guys, don't talk to them," and they were always evil and they were always getting in the way of good police work. Maybe we need to rethink that. In this current day and age, because if there are very few officers tasked with investigating wrongdoing by other officers, and we have been exposed in the last couple of years to a tremendous amount of wrongdoing by other police officers.
And we know that in the report, as far back as 1999, there were some of the men involved in this that were being targeted, were having the guns and drugs planted, or their families, the young black men who had no record whatsoever. They were lodging complaints and wanting investigation. That was immediately squashed. No, we're not going to do that. And even originally when some of the cops were trying to look into this, they tried to squash that as well. And by the way, so this isn't just like for money or for fun, like, hey, we caught a bunch of people. So some of the people involved in this, the ones we were just talking about in the positions of authority, were part of a group that advocated for blacks to return to Africa. They said that blacks have lower IQs. And we might have the
How
picture.
high is your IQ? You just got caught.
They got caught.
Yeah.
Well, they held out for a long time, though.
Oh, and of course,
and
a Jewish
also,
conspiracy.
Jewish conspiracy. And, yeah, we have pictures, I believe, of them posing, holding up Confederate battle flags.
Okay, by the way.
But that doesn't mean anything about race.
They say there's
Anything.
a Jewish conspiracy, as they literally did a conspiracy against blacks.
Yeah.
No, you're the one with the conspiracy. And we're told all the time, no, it's just Southern pride and heritage, that flag. That's all it represents. Except to those racists who purposely put innocent black men in jail for now close to 20 years and got away with it. It wasn't heritage. It was racism, and they wanted to target blacks and Jews. There wasn't that many Jews in Alabama, so they just got the blacks.
And it wasn't in the 30s. It wasn't like in the run-up to the civil rights. Like Seinfeld was on the air when they were planting guns and drugs.
No, and I want to be clear. It started when Seinfeld was on the air in 96.
And it continued,
It continued for nearly 20 years.
Yes.
Now, again, the good officers here, they turn them in and they go, we can't have this, right? You know who covers it up? Now, every one of these guys should be arrested. So Andy Hughes, Steve Parrish, those are the officers that John talked about. They're the guys who planted the evidence. There was another...
Are they in that photo?
Those were some of the supervisors.
Right. And one of the guys who planted the evidence, by the way, it was so egregious, so over the top, that they had to strike a deal where they let him go, right? But he said, I'm going to rat out everybody else. It wasn't internal affairs. It was one of their own that was going to rat out everybody else. So they're like, no, we won't press charges against you. We won't do anything. You're free to go. You just can't stay here, right? And he would have illegal weapons and drugs in his car. He's the thug. He's the criminal. right? Did he ever get arrested? No. The innocent people got arrested, but he didn't. So, but then Police Chief John White, then Police Chief John White, he goes and testifies and says, oh, no, I never got any report of any wrongdoing from these cops. No, but wait a minute. It's on the record that you did.
Yeah.
That report was given to you. You're the one who said, let's not do anything about it. And then I think the biggest villain out of all of them is District Attorney Doug Valeska. They say to him, the cops, other cops in legal papers say to him, those cases that you're working on, we know the cops planted the evidence. He goes, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, not interested. He goes on to prosecute them, even though he knows they're innocent, okay, and will ignore the other officers. There are good officers. He ignores them. He doesn't do anything to the bad cops, and he prosecutes the guys and puts them in jail. How is he?
Amazing.
No. Let's first of all, let's establish a bunch of things. These are the thugs, okay? These are the thugs. They took away hundreds, thousands of years of people's freedom, right? So they're racist. They hold up the Confederate flag. They do all this stuff, right? And they are proud to be part of this group,
yeah,
right? And so they did it again. They took away people's freedom. People should be like, black people in this country, some think they're too angry. I think they're not nearly angry enough. I mean, look at what's being done to them. No. This wasn't slavery. This wasn't Jim Crow. This is right now. This is right now. It isn't race baiting to point it out. It's race baiting to do it.
Yeah.
Okay? You know what's race baiting? Taking an innocent guy, ruining his life, throwing him in jail.
Ruining his kids' lives, ruining his family's lives.
And you know what? Another thing that they are, what are they doing? What did they do to the black community down in Alabama? They terrorize them. Because there's nothing you can do. You're innocent. They plant it on you anyway. And they do it to him, and they do it to you, and they do it to thousands of black people in Alabama.
And there are people in Alabama, 3 strikes and you're out, drug offenders who are in prison for life, right? I don't know if it's first of all, I mean, my hunch is every single arrest these officers made, out. Those guys are out of prison. So it's going to include, what they're also going to have done is get some very bad people who were legitimately arrested and incarcerated are going to get out. And they should, because how do you know what these guys were capable of planning?
And that's their fault.
That's their fault, 100% their fault. Doug Valeska, what's the right sentence for Doug Valeska?
Prison for life.
Life.
It's not a conversation. Die
in prison.
Yeah, you robbed them of hundreds of years of their life. How dare you ask for anything other than life in prison for Valeska and for these other guys? So you terrorize that whole community. By the way, what do you call that when somebody gets terrorized? Okay, so now the other thing is, I'm just trying to get people in this country to understand the perspective of African Americans. If you're an African American down in Alabama and you already know that Joe didn't do it and Bob didn't do it and John didn't do it, you're the guy. If you're Bob and Joe and they planted the drugs, they planted the weapons on you, how can you not be distrustful of the cops? When you see a cop coming at you, you think, oh no, he's here to do me harm. Why? Because they've been doing harm to them for that, at least these guys, for those 20 years. And it doesn't just affect 1 or 2 blacks. It affects so many of them, they think, rightfully, I am going to be skeptical of the cops. Please tell me you can understand that.
Yeah.
Please tell me you can understand. If you can't understand that, then we can't help you. If you still say, no, black people are at fault, cops never do anything wrong, it's just a few bad apples, I don't know why they're skeptical of the cops. Then you're either purposely blind to it or you're really one of the densest people alive. This is why they're skeptical of the cops. No, every one of these guys. And look, one more role reversal. They get to hide behind a badge, right? But what did they do? They took somebody's freedom away. They locked them up and they wouldn't let them out, right? Even though they were perfectly innocent. Now, what happens? It's state violence. The state sanctions it. In this case, superior officers and the prosecutors covered it up, right? And by the way, not turning that over to defense attorneys, if you're the prosecutor, is a very serious crime. Okay, that's a serious crime you should do, as we said, maximum time for, right? So imagine a bunch of black guys decide they're going to capture thousands of innocent white people in Alabama and put them in a basement and not let them out for years. What do you think happens, right? But why is it okay when the guy with a badge does it? It's not okay. It's worse when the guy with the badge does it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing, and then but you add abuse of power. Yeah,
and this is the cell that was caught because some people on the inside made it clear that it was happening. There are thousands of police departments across the country. Which is more likely, that this was the only group that was doing this, or that they're in operation?
And it took them 20 years of the good cops complaining over and over again, for God's sake, when are you going to do something about these guys, right? And it turns out the guys in power, state violence, decided, nope, I'm going to keep on taking their freedom away.
When the lawsuits for compensation start coming in from the people who, some are still in jail, some who've gotten out in the interim in the past 2 decades, how much money is this going to cost Alabama?
Why do you think they call it Black Lives Matter? Because apparently in Alabama, the black lives did not matter. It didn't matter if you took their freedom away. It's not new to Alabama, right? How many times have we gone through that in Alabama, where black lives don't matter, and they don't matter to this day? Do you understand why they're upset? Well, how would you react? How would you react? Imagine if Obama opened up FEMA camps and imprisoned you wrongly for a year. He imprisoned thousands of your neighbors, and he did it wrongly. You were innocent. You didn't even do anything, and he put you in a FEMA camp and imprisoned you. What would you do? You'd rebel, wouldn't you? I know the right-wing guys, they'd grab a gun, wouldn't they? Right? Yeah. And so, look, I don't want anybody grabbing any guns. I couldn't be any clearer about that, right? I'm telling you right now, black people in this country aren't angry enough. It's got to change, because it hasn't changed. Wake up.
Black power, black power, black motherfucking power. Black it your ass.
First you get that money, then you get that power.
Wake up, niggas. It's time to get up.
It's time to make the rain shower.
It's time to rise up. Get your ass up. It's time to wake up. It's time to rise up.
Produce some nuts.
Produce some nuts.
Before I go
Let
without
them
a
drop.
sec, I swear it back. I spot my I make Ellis, I know Jim. Like a tank. Roll it back. Show my diamond yellow like a tank. I'm a cat, I'ma take all them pussy right now. This a nigga band, I look.
You gotta go far into your inside of you. Black Power family, peace, hotep to all the gods and goddesses. Now that we got that out of the way, fuck everybody else.
First you get that money, then you get that power. If you tune in, knows up. Now you walk around with 50 in your trousers. Diamonds bullying on my chest, no fucking blouses. Try to make it rain shower, you dig that? Ain't wanna know a thing about you if you sell that. Kill them with that blocker, nigga, get back. Feed that bitch that never crack, get to my business. Big Benny, that big Benny. I'm around with the semi, cause I know these niggas hear me. Is you mad by Instagram or how I keep my pimp? Chain, you keep that in suspense.
And I am straight. I'm straight. I love men, I love black men. I am straight. I love complimenting my sisters, but don't get that twisted up.
You did that. Ain't wanna know a thing about you if you sell that. Kill them with that blocker, nigga, get back. Feed that bitch that never crack, get